Welcome to the Inspired Children Parenting Program with Dr Rosina McAlpine, making a difference to parents and children around the world.
Hello, I'm Dr Rosina and welcome back to the Inspired Parenting Show. Today we're on our third part of a three-part series on looking at depression and the 5 keys toward emotional freedom. In episode 1, you got a really good outline of all of the different facets of depression that you could understand so that you can recognize it in your own child or even in yourself. In episode 2, I was talking to Dr. Samantha Madhosingh. She's known as the emotional wellness doctor, and she was telling us all about her 5 keys toward emotional freedom. In the second episode, you'll learn about discovering your purpose and passion, dissolving emotional blockages, and finally we talked about living fearlessly. Now in this third episode, we get to talk about unshakable self-confidence and owning your magnificence. Welcome back, Dr. Samantha. Let's start with this whole idea of unshakable self-confidence. What parent doesn't want their child to be unshakably self-confident? What we've found today in society is a lot of children are underconfident. So what can we do to help them be more confident?
Sure. So what we often see is with children and even adults, it's sort of, you see the progression. I work with children, adolescents, and adults, so I see the whole range, is that there's an over-reliance on other people's opinions. And again, part of our parenting practices kind of promotes this. So we lose the knowledge of the difference between encouragement and praise, and we develop children who are dependent on our praise in order to succeed. And so they expect when they're in certain jobs to always be getting a pat on the back, or wanting approval from other people, or they'll find themselves in relationships where they're always seeking the approval of other people. And they tie their self-confidence to how other people see them. And so what's really important with kids is to help them develop their own self-confidence, where they know who they are. And so another person's opinion of them, whilst they may take it under advisement, does not undermine their identity. And so if you know who you are, somebody can say, like, for example, you could be at work and go, for an evaluation, or supervisor might be angry because of something that's gone wrong, and you'll be able to make a determination as to where the line is that is your responsibility, and what you may want to change, and what you may want to improve, and what's not about you. And what is, these are to do again with tasks and things and behaviors, but it's not you as a person. And that is the piece that's the key. That's what we're striving to do, and that's how we work with the kids to help them do that.
I really like that you said that there's a difference here between you as a person and what you do. That there's 2 different things here. So you as a person, every child, every human being deserves self-esteem just because they exist. They're special in their own right, and it has nothing to do with what they're doing. It's just who they are. But then there's this thing outside you, which is what you do in the world. And I know one of the things that I noticed when Cameron was really young, he started to say, "Do you love this, Mummy?" And I've always turned it around and said, "Do you love it, Cameron?" And he goes, "I love it." And I go, "Now do you want Mummy's opinion?" So you can have an opinion and obviously get external feedback, but that internal evaluation is really important first, right? Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, again, to keep in mind is you cannot give self-esteem. Self-esteem is, a child develops it as they grow, and they get it from learning about having disappointments, as we were talking about before, making mistakes, and then coming up with solutions to those things, right? And then mastery of tasks. So for example, if you don't allow your child to ever learn to tie their shoe, they will never master that. They don't develop the confidence. Self-confidence and self-esteem builds from being able to develop certain skills, one thing on top of the other. If you interfere in that process, then you're interfering with that sort of trajectory. And self-esteem is based on that. A lot of self-esteem is I can't, right? If you have low self-esteem, you don't think very highly of yourself, and you think I can't do this and I can't do that. That's where it comes from.
I love that. And one of the books that we're reading, Cameron, at the moment, because he's 6, is that little engine who could.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful
Yes.
book, and there's a modern version of it now, a new version. And just that whole idea of I think I can, and you say it so many times. And then when she gets over the other side, she says, I thought I could.
And I did it.
It's so beautiful. And so you can bring that up when they're little, that I think I can, I think I can, not I think I can't. And I even hear Cameron still say to me things like, don't worry, Mummy, you're still learning, because we talk about that.
Absolutely.
Don't worry if you can't quite get it, because you're still learning.
Always still learning.
And that one big thing that I've seen with parents is, with that mistakes that you've been talking about, is at the moment he's doing spelling tests every week, and he came home with 8 out of 10, and I said, you got 8 right. That means we've only got 2 more to learn.
Right.
And so it's valuing, even if
What
it was
he's
you
done.
got 2 right. I go, you got 2 right. That means you've only got 8 more to learn.
Right.
So I think if we can start with valuing what is, and then moving towards that is really going to make a big difference to that unshakable self-confidence.
Yes, because again, it comes from mastery of and practice of things. The more practice a child gets at developing these skills, the stronger they get, the more confident they get, and again, that becomes unshakable, because then they know who they are.
Is it really important for parents to remind their children that, do you know that when you were a baby you couldn't walk, and then you learned, and then when you were older you didn't share, but look at you now, you share your toys. Is it good to remind them so that they see that they're constantly mastering what they might not have realized that they're mastering?
Yes, and I think also that you want to, like my daughter will say to me, she thinks she's so clever. Like she will say, I know everything that I need to know. And so I explain to her, and she will say to me, and I will say to her, well, even Mommy doesn't know everything. And she said, well, yes, you do. And I said, no, I don't. I'm still learning too. And I think that's really important to help kids understand that it's all about practice. And that's what I explained to her. If you want to get better at anything, it is all about practice. If you want to get stronger, you may be a good writer now, but if you think about where you are now, where you will be in 6 months or a year, it'll be even better. And to instill in her that desire to do better and do more, and to allow herself to keep growing and achieving. Even for me, I mean, I mentioned before about doing the TV segments. On the days that I go out, I post on my page, I can do this, because I am reminding myself that even though I feel a little bit scared, I can totally do it. And I need to nourish myself with that image.
And that's so great that you can share that with your child, so that they know that you're going through things that are fearful, and they can as well. Well, that leads us to the very last and probably the most exciting of your 5 keys, let's face it, owning your own magnificence. What does that mean? What does it mean for a parent to own their own magnificence, to model that for their children, and then to build that into, or to help their child develop that as well? What does that mean to own your magnificence?
I think it's sort of the amalgamation, it's the joining of all the other principles. It's recognizing how wonderful you are just because you're you. And that, I don't know if you have a son and I have a daughter, but my daughter used to love, when she was little, the Fancy Nancy books. And I loved Fancy Nancy because she had all these fancy words. And one of her words was unique. And, recognizing that we don't have to be like everybody else, and we're not like everybody else. We're all uniquely magnificent within our own space, and with our own dreams, with our own qualities, with our own flaws and imperfections. We are who we are. And yes, we're always on a journey towards growth, but recognizing that you have a light to shine, and you have the right to shine that light. And as a parent, noticing that about your children, encouraging them to shine that light that they have within themselves, and being open to them, to allowing them to do that, because you want them to believe how magnificent they are, and not to feel that they're permanently flawed and that they can do nothing right. And I think that's what happens, because we often try, especially when kids are young, we find ourselves doing a lot of correction.
Yes.
And so they start to think that there's something wrong with them, and we want to encourage them and shine the light on where they do things well. So you build on their strengths and use those strengths to help them develop, get stronger at their other skills. Wherever it is that they have weaknesses and challenges, help use their strengths to help them improve on those.
What a beautiful note to end this interview on. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And I'm just going to recap those 5 keys. Discover your purpose and passion, dissolving emotional blockages, living fearlessly, unshakable self-confidence, and owning your magnificence. Thank you so much for joining me on the Inspired Parenting Show. See you on the next episode.